Shirley here with Sirius Dallas Moon, and this is Minerva Aldebaran. Mercury in the ninth house. Well, soul hour. I hope Aldebaran here will assist because what I want to talk about is I've talked about, and with Moon already in Sag, really applying tomorrow to meet Lilith and the importance of the woman that would not be subjugated to be re-included in society, in the scripture. I cannot stress that enough, okay? I am the survivor of entire family of very likely not just my grandfather from my mother's side. It's kind of like we don't know everything about the family, but if the other side had to have a convert married to a Christian and what is, and later, secular, traditional but secular people later living in a place where was converted to orthodoxy. How can I say that? I've already, I'm already of the people that, I was watching Icelandic culture today, and as I learned from the videos, people have, people are also very related and so on and so forth, but because it's an island which probably could cause like emigration and immigration. However, people have in their house a wall where they have the pictures of all the ancestors, generations upon generations. People that were born even second or third generation are not able to comprise that wall with more than that much. And one of the reasons, at least in my lineage, had to do with scriptures that were commanding birth, while the commanding birth and even seeing birth as a punishment, which I talked about previously, but one of the commands of, they call it pruvu, which basically means a command for the people to procreate and fill the land. It's basically a command to rape. Sexuality is not something we command. Anything based on rape cannot sustain. It create, what was the Holocaust? Massive depopulation of not just Jews, because everybody, it was a time where, if you walk around, even in 2019, there was, even before 7th October, there were a couple of times where people thought that people are Palestinian and they were Jews, and that people thought that people are Jews and they were Palestinian. And this is where commanding birthing is not actually, if I take it to, let's say, Inuit culture. So Inuit culture has Sedna, and almost the core of the Sedna story is that the Sedna story brings to us an intelligence where we can't just command a woman to find a husband, pick a husband, and get married. Unless we want famine, hunger, extermination, and loss of power, particularly occultistic power, because Senna was trafficked for occultistic power. And indeed, the shaman had to appease Sedna, or there would be no food. No food in the ocean also denotes to what? Mining from the ocean. So, tomorrow we're going to have the big square, the big discussion, and the lovely thing that Venus traveled to Aldebaran before that. So, the values, how should I say that? The values are set. Because when the moon is going to go through Lilith, agreeing with Mars, I don't know if we would be this, how should I say that? This eloquent and tender in expressing the Lilith sentiment. Even when Mars is 18-degree Aries. Venus is leaving a sextile with Saturn, and in sign of Gemini with Mercury in Taurus, we are able to express our values in a way that is relational. This, or how should I say, if people think that this is extreme, this is the most amiable. Now, I gave the Inuit example in Sedna because it's important to emphasize that it doesn't pertain only to monotheism. Um, and Lilith is so amazing here because Lilith reminds us what happens when we populate by command or by even the, how should I say that? Even the same procreate is command. Okay, what was basically polvo. When people fear being outpopulated, they should abolish rape because then what would happen? Let's say, I don't know, let's say Iceland is fearing being outpopulated. Okay? If they abolish rape, which they have a lot of good grounds in their culture, it means that the people can, who can, if, and here's the thing, if we have ideological migration, then people can be basically assist in. Okay, remember the story of Swedish women? But they can't be enslaved. They're not there for cheap labor. And this is when I take a look at the story of Finland and how Finland used housing first to combat the KGB risk. Because after working with the Nazis, trying to find a better option than to be partaking in crime against humanity punishable by death unless we abolish rape and torture. It's the only thing that would also change that jurisdictionally because they will never make it, how should I say that? Without abolishing it from the core, it would still be liable to extortion as crimes against humanity trials, which I tended to when I tended to the death row dossiers and the Dodge exposing things around the 90s to prevent being litigated for the Kurdistani genocide. Now, um, now abolishing rape and torture is also pertaining to, well, how should I say it? When rape and torture is abolished, we also resolve issues of what people call plagiarism. Okay, oh, for example, when I post an episode in this podcast, of course it is the rights from Michel Tali Jongbloed. No matter what people, how people use technology to hack with my voice, to hack with my mannerism. And so tomorrow we're going to have a moon next to Lilith. And Lilith also reminds us that, Pluto is more like global extinction by A bombs in an immediate way. Um, Lilith is more like killing all the babies that were born by rape and providing euthanasia for the adults. Else, abolish rape and torture. Or provide euthanasia for the people that need euthanasia. Okay, Netherlands, I was one of the women that actually, I think I already opened a request in Dignitas back then because of being tortured, while being tortured, like many other women that in Netherlands applied to euthanasia in the past several years, where there was also tremendous femicide and is. And great activists to bring euthanasia to Israel. And then we see the religious issues trying to prohibit those things should also enable life without rape. And so Moon will cross Lilith right when, right on that day when Mars squares Pluto and trines Mars. I talked about the profession of doulas being sort of um, like like a type of couple that tries to alleviate the suffering of the inmates. Hopefully, it is true. It is true. It is true. You can't have parties that promise to increase population or double the population by 2036 without saying that this is true. People thought people are just going to be nice and explain the intergenerational gap. That's amazing. Not everybody is a Teal Swan. Watch Teal Swan's video about it, by the way. She's being nice and eloquent. But Lilith here does not pertain to just policies. She pertains to, in Sagittarius, beliefs, philosophies. And in praxis, you ask me, Shirley, what is Lilith in practice? In praxis? Well, the woman that will not be subjugated. She preferred not to be in a relationship if there is required for her to be subjugated, then she would be single, for example. If that is not allowed, then she will be child free and, I don't know, called to exterminate the earth. I have no idea. And if she cannot even choose around having a baby, we are already not dealing with a Lilith, but with a Sedna. And what would Lilith do? Kill the babies that are born in that way. For example, what could think about the many millennials and perhaps Gen Zers, I don't know, they talk about loving children so much that they don't have a baby. I'm one of those. It's not a world that, again, there are people that brought babies and had, I don't know, couples growing together that were in those, had the nourishment and had, okay, fine. A person that still tends to their inner child is not in a phase where they can be a parent. If a person by themselves acknowledges that, wow, with the last thing we want to do is put pressure on them to have kids. Or to parentify them in any way. Or to try to be paternal towards them, which is what caused them to not want to have kids. We don't, here is where the trine between Mars and Lilith is challenging. Mars is action and Lilith is belief. Trine means beliefs aligning with action. Mars is separating from the trine with Lilith, but then the moon will agree with Lilith and will conjoin Lilith and will agree with Mars. While in conjuncting Jupiter that it rules that squares Mars. So Jupiter, while exalted, is not in an easy position here. Um, and it's dealing with Mars in its home sign. This is why the command or the mitzvah puvu or whichever equivalent of that is generating actually depopulation. It's not going to increase the population. What it's going to do is increase the war crimes or increase the crimes against humanity. in which euthanasia is mass total extinction becomes euthanasia. Like I said, I've been talking about this for at least for before 7th October. To prevent that, we need to abolish rape in our cultures, in our religion, in our actions, in our technologies, whatnot.